Are you overwhelmed by motherhood and barely keeping your head above water? Are you confused and frustrated by how all the other moms make it look so easy? You can't figure out how to manage the chaos in your mind, your home, or your family. I get you, mama. Parenting with ADHD is hard. Here is your permission slip to let go of the Pinterest-worthy visions of organization and structure fit for everyone else. Let's do life like our brains do life. Creatively, lovingly, and with all our might. When we embrace who we are and how our brains work, we can figure out how to live our lives successfully and, in turn, lead our families well. At the end of the day, we just want to be good moms. But, spoiler alert, you are already a great mom. ADHD does not mean you're doomed to be a hot mess, mama. You can rewrite your story from shame spiral to success story. And I'll be right here beside you to cheer you on. Welcome to Motherhood and ADHD. Hey there, Successful Mama. It's your friend, Patricia Sung. While I am on break for the next few weeks, I am bringing you some friends. This is my Best of Friends episode, and these are all interviews that I've done for other people's podcasts. First of all, thank you to these hosts for sharing their episode with us. And I want you to go in the show notes and see, where do you find them? Go listen to their other episodes. Put their show in your queue, in your download list, so that you have an extra friend to hang out with when you're cleaning or on a walk or riding in the car. Every time I am interviewed, I find myself often sharing very similar things, but there's always some nuances and new things that, oh my, wow, I have never shared that before. I've never talked about this in this way. And I can't wait for you to get a new flair and perspective and, a new podcast friend to join you today. So listen in to this episode on a friend's podcast. Go check them out and enjoy this Best of Friends episode. Meet Allison Jordan of the Better Belly Podcast.
As you guys know, we are currently in an ADHD series on the Better Belly podcast. And I thought, what better way to do an ADHD series than to have an expert on supporting women with ADHD onto the podcast? Patricia Sung is the host of Motherhood and ADHD Podcast, a top 5 parenting podcast that encourages mamas with ADHD or suspected ADHD with practical strategies and relatable missteps. Patricia is a hobby-hopping, anxious adventurer willing to try almost anything once. On today's episode, we talk about what ADHD is, why ADHD can look so different in women than men, common signs that you have ADHD, common signs of ADHD that often get overlooked, and Patricia's top tips on how to incorporate new goals into your life, such as taking vitamins regularly or changing your diet when you have ADHD. Whether you know you have or think you have ADHD, this episode is for you. Hey friend, welcome to the Better Belly Podcast. If you're currently trying endless supplements, doctor visits, and diet changes to heal your mystery symptoms, you are in the right place. We're here to solve the real root causes behind your gut, hormone, skin, sleep, and brain concerns, literally anything and everything in your body. My name is Allison Jordan. I'm a functional medicine practitioner that has supported over 150 clients just like you to heal problems that no one has been able to fix. You don't need a perfect diet or a random supplement you found on Instagram to heal. You need a proven system that heals your whole body from the inside out. That's what I'm here to share with you, episode by episode. It's time to make health easy again. And just as a reminder, this information is not meant to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your own health practitioner before you make any changes to your health. All right, guys, I'm so excited to introduce you guys Patricia. Patricia, thank you so much for coming on to the Better Belly podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Allison. I cannot wait to dive in.
Awesome. So Patricia, the very first thing I want to talk about with you or have you tell our listeners is what even got you into this conversation on ADHD to begin with, and especially like ADHD with moms. Was that together at the same time or was there stages of this? Give us the story.
So I was originally diagnosed when I was 18. I was a freshman in college and I basically fell apart. And I went from being like model high school student, National Honor Society. I'm at school on scholarship, and I literally just like fell apart. And at the time, I had no idea why, because I thought I was a very, you know, responsible human being who was like new strategies. And I thought that I really thought I was going to be successful when I went to college. I thought this was going to be like, I mean, it's going to be hard, but like, I'm a good student. It'll be cool. No, that's a lie. All of that structure that I had in high school was gone. And all of a sudden, I was the one responsible for, instead of just upholding the systems that everyone else gave me, I actually had to make my own systems. And I didn't know that. One of those, wish you had known before you started
They don't
things.
give you a syllabus for it in college, that's for sure.
Yeah, there was no how to be a human. That was not how to adult. That was not a class. And I figured out how to make it work. I thought it was just a school thing, and I made it through. Like I've made it through school. Somehow I didn't lose my scholarship. Figured it out. And figured out how to make my life work now that I had this information. But like, keep in mind, this was the year 2000, so now you know how old I am. Like, they didn't have the information they have available today. So I really did not know how much it was affecting me on a broader level until I had kids. And then when I was after I had my oldest, I had really awful postpartum anxiety, which is
Mm,
very common to co-occur with ADHD.
mm.
And I was up one night, like 3 a.m. Googling, like, how do I be a good mom with ADHD? And there was not much there. I know that there were people working diligently at this at the time. My oldest is 9. So 10 years ago, I know there were people doing this, but I did not find them on the Google when I was looking at 3 a.m. And I was just like, there's got like, this has got to be easier. Like, I literally looked at my husband. My kid was like 2 weeks old. I was like, can we send him back? I don't want to do this anymore. Can we send him back? Like, not in a joking manner. I genuinely wanted to send that kid back. I was like, I just want my old life back. This is terrible. And fast forward to after my youngest was about a year old, I don't know what your religious preference is, but I'm a Christian, and God put it on my heart to be like, I would like you to start a podcast for moms with ADHD. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And God was persistent, and here I am, 5 years later, where now I have taken like that background of working in corporate and being a teacher and just my general personality, and being able to take all these pieces together and be able to deliver this information to other moms to have the resources that they need to be the kind of mom that you want to be. And that it doesn't have to be this hard. It doesn't have to be this terrible. Is it hard? Yes, but it doesn't have to be that hard.
Mm.
And now I get to do what I love every day, help moms, and host a community online and hang out with them. Um, and yeah, sometimes I'm like, wow, how did I get here? This is pretty cool and weird. Um, but yeah, it all came together. It was all meant to be.
And if that is not an endorsement, a good enough endorsement for your podcast, I don't know what is. Because I tell my clients a lot, they say, I think I have ADHD. Do I have ADHD? And it can really impact their ability to just say, like, I just want to change my diet. I just want to remember to take my supplements, which are things that they're 100% committed to when they work with me. But then it's really hard. And I'm always pointing them to other resources of saying, hey, let's like learn some things and some tips and tricks that are specific to having an ADHD brain. Even if you just think you have one, if you don't have a diagnosis, if the tips and tricks work, use them.
Then it works.
And that's what you're doing and bringing into the world, and bringing a lot of compassion. So if anybody's listening to this and they're like, I just need somebody to help me feel compassionate towards myself and the struggles or the emotions that you have, especially as a parent, let alone maybe, I mean, you have experience, you're a working mom with ADHD, all those things, your podcast, I'm going to point to them right now. But before they jump over there, we do want to have a conversation that's a little bit more specific to health. And before we even get there, let's just lay some ground rules. What is ADHD? How would you define it? Like, give us your best ADHD definition.
So when you have ADHD, you have a neurodevelopmental difference, and your body functions differently, your brain functions differently than other people. And like, to be totally honest, they don't 100% know exactly what's going on, because it's not like you can like stick a camera in your brain and like scope around and see what's up. That kills people. So we don't know for sure. Like, a lot of this is like scientists' very best guess at what they think is going on. They believe it has to do with the levels of dopamine and various like hormones that are going on in our bodies. And that's why like when you are a female and you have all of these hormone changes in your life, getting your period,
week by week.
matrescence,
Right.
yeah, perimenopause, even just the week by week changes of your cycle, why you see so much difference in how you feel like you're showing up as like a different person sometimes. And a lot of times people will be diagnosed with bipolar before ADHD is found. Now, whether or not that's an incorrect diagnosis, not my place to say, but that is something that pops up because the hormones affect so much of how your ADHD shows up in your life. There is a very wide spread on how people will show up throughout the month if you're still having a regular cycle that's happening. So like, to go back to the original question, we believe it has to do with the chemicals that are going on in your body. And we know that it is something that you are most likely born with. There are some cases where people will have like a head injury and they end up with ADHD, but most of the time it's genetically how you were born. And that to me is so important because then we can know that like, this isn't me. I'm not messed up. I'm not broken. It's not that you are just too lazy to get things done in life. No, like physically speaking, chemically speaking, your body functions differently than other people. So it's not your fault. Now, does that mean we don't have any responsibility in what happens next? Absolutely not. The actions that we take and the way that we support ourselves makes a huge difference in how that is going to show up every day. But it's not your fault. You didn't do anything. Like you're not, it's not like you ate too many fruit roll-ups as a kid and now you ended up with ADHD. That's not a thing. Like there's a blog about it, but don't go look it up because I don't want that to show up in Google. But anyways, like this is not your choice. What is your choice is figuring out how are you going to support yourself. So when we think about like what is ADHD from like an actual real life perspective, what are we seeing there? Well, then we go to the diagnostic manual, which is the book that doctors use to figure out like, do you have ADHD or not? It's called the DSM-5. It's a little old. I think the last one is in like 2013. So there should be an update in the next year or two because every decade or so they update it. It tells us that when you have ADHD, you will show up either as primarily inattentive, primarily hyperactive, or combined, you have both of them together. Lucky you. The old saying of ADD, that's out. We've rebranded. We don't use that term anymore. It's either you have ADHD that's more inattentive, which was old name ADD, or combined, or the hyperactive side. How does this show up? So hyperactive only people, you see that more in their like physical being. It's the kid who's always jumping off the stuff that like it's stereotypical. If somebody were to like look up in the dictionary, where's the kid with ADHD? It's that 5-year-old that everybody's like, oh dear, not him again. Like that kid bouncing off the walls, doesn't listen. Like that's more of the hyperactive leaning. It is not only 5-year-old boys that have hyperactive ADHD. It's probably also your friend who's like literally like always mountain biking and, has 17 hobbies and like literally never sits still. That can also show up like that. So when we see like this word hyperactive, a lot of times we give it a stereotypical definition or like, picture, and that's not necessarily how it shows up. On the other side, you've got an attentive, which means for people that are like that, it tends to be more in the like easily distracted, gets lost in their thoughts, daydream, disorganized, etc. And then you have the people in the middle who have both. And I'm like, did I miss any symptoms? A lot of times we'll see things like impulsivity, your friend who talks too much. Anyone you label as that person's too much. They're too dramatic. They're too sensitive. They talk too much. Any friend who is too much, that's a red flag.
Yeah, because there can be sensory problems, right? Because there can be
Yes.
some sensory like craving or repulsion, certain sounds, certain feelings, needing to have proprioception or needing dark, needing sound to not be so loud or wanting sound to be louder. There's like, go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. Go ahead. No, I should say that there's a really wide array of symptoms. It's not like there's no like everybody with ADHD does this. that's not there. So that's where we can get into these places where it feels hard to diagnose, because if you look at me and how I show up as someone with ADHD, it could be utterly and totally different than another person, which makes it harder to pick out. Um, and it does range in like, like you're saying, there's, interoception and proprioception and all these ways that like, I mean, and I haven't even gotten into all the things that tend to come with ADHD, which are not ADHD, but or they're like their buddies. They come along, things like dysgraphia, dyscalculia, things like anxiety and depression, things like autism, things like what am I missing? Chronic illness, fibromyalgia, all the autoimmune thing. Like there's like this huge list of things that tend to also come along with it. Like you don't usually get just ADHD by itself. You usually got other problems too. So when you have this like such a wide spread, it can be hard to diagnose. And also people will say like, well, but my ADHD looks like this, so clearly you don't have it. And it's like, well, that's not how it works out.
And
So
that's starting to be talked about, which I think is why maybe some of our
mm,
listeners even are like starting to pick up on these almost like alternative versions, the versions that are not like the little boy who can't sit still in his chair. So, that was my brother. He's got ADHD, diagnosed as a kid, point blank done. And now I'm looking back and I don't have a diagnosis yet, but I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like I have like so many of the more hidden signs that or the signs that were not poster child
yeah.
ADHD." And those we're really seeing them a lot more on social media or people like yourself who are trying to be more thorough, maybe more
Yeah.
thorough in the range of experiences people are having.
And it's on one hand, like I so appreciate how social media and all like have brought to light things that people have struggled with their whole lives and never had a name to put to that struggle. And there's a lot of people who use their lived experience as like scientific research, and that's not that's not necessarily true. So like we have all these great resources out there, and that means there's also a bunch of junk too. So it is hard to like filter through what's most valuable, but like at least now it's getting talked about, because even when we look at like the DSM-5 on where we diagnose, things like emotional regulation and like sensory issues tend not to show up as much because they're not as quantifiable. Like when you look at a doctor saying,
Mm,
I need to diagnose this, I need to be able to check 6 things on this list to say that this person is hyperactive.
yeah.
When you say that person is like emotionally all over the place, that's not a quantifiable like thing. I can't like how am I supposed to say that you're dysregulated? You're a hot mess, but you're only like kind of a hot mess. So like you can't put that on a checklist. So these things that show up, the lesser known pieces of it are now getting talked about, which is wonderful. And like, what do we actually do with this information? That's when we go, like when we start get the inklings of like, oh, this is sounding awfully familiar. Like I have a checklist on my website that's like, hey, here's all the things that are like symptoms that show up, and this is what it would actually look like. Like if you're the one who goes to the restaurant and looks at the menu and has to read all of it and then doubts your choices 6 times, and then you have to ask the waiter, well, no, wait, no, oh, no, wait, hold on. I don't want to ask the waiter any questions. I don't want to bother anybody. So I'm just going to try to guess what this is. I don't know what this word means. Let me get out the Google. Like if that's you and you get very apprehensive about choosing your item off the menu, that is a way that being indecisive shows up. But like most people, when they go to the doctor, they're not like, I really have trouble picking food off the menu. They're going like, well, but I'm always like
Anxious.
stressed out. I'm anxious
Yeah.
because I forget things. I'm anxious because like I keep forgetting to send in this stuff for school. I'm depressed because my partner is always mad at me. And so all of these other things are what surfaces, but we're not looking at the like, but what does this look like in real life? So like you go to this, if you go grab this checklist off my website, I'm telling you, I'm not a doctor. I can't diagnose you, but I can tell you, here's all the things that I've seen in working with thousands of people with ADHD. So now you can go to your doctor. First of all, make sure they know about ADHD. If they don't know what they're talking about, go see somebody else. You go to your doctor and you're like, here's all the things that I deal with. These are all the struggles that I have. Can you help me sort out them? Like, can you help me sort the mess that is my life? Can you help me sort through this? And that way they can look at all the pieces and say, oh, you know what? This probably is ADHD and anxiety, or this is ADHD and depression. And that then somebody who is an expert and well experienced and can with a medical degree can then help you say, here's what we're dealing with. let's start here. Let's try treating this first and actually work on a plan that encompasses everything. So like, that's why when it comes to like self-diagnosis, I always tell people, if you're happy with that, cool. Like that's all you need is for you. If these resources help you, great. And if you're dealing with lots of problems, let's go see somebody who can help you with all the problems, not just the one problem.
Yeah. I actually went and grabbed that checklist from your website. I'm going to put it in the show notes. So people just like go to the show notes and click on a link, checklist of common symptoms for ADHD. I love that you shared that. You actually have a lot of resources on your website. So I highly recommend anyone listening to go check this out.
Yeah.
Just,
so you can go,
which
there's
is so
I have a thing
exciting.
called a toolkit, and it literally has all the web, it's all in there. So if you sign up for the toolkit,
Oh,
you
okay.
get all of them.
Okay.
And that way you can go in and download all the stuff. Cause I mean,
Okay.
obviously I have ADHD and I have made many things because I find that fun. So I have a ton of resources on there.
Very
'Cause
nice. And anybody who thinks they have ADHD or maybe they're not even sure, but if they love digging into things, they'll love you for it. So I actually do have that link for the toolkit. So scratch that. We'll just have that one link, has a toolkit. It has, I guess, all your free goodies in there, which
everything's in one
is
place. Yeah.
even more exciting.
It's time to be true to you. You're invited, Mama, to this year's 3rd annual Successful as a Mother weekend retreat. It is time to relax, unwind, rest, and take care of a very important person in the family, which is you. This year's retreat is on October 11th through 13th, 2024, and you're invited. This is an all-inclusive retreat. It covers your meals, your hotel, all of our activities. All you have to do is show up, and I take it from there. We are staying in the historic boutique hotel, the Sam Houston, in downtown Houston, where we will learn about our ADHD, tune in to who you are and what you need so that you can trust your gut. All while eating delicious food you didn't cook, you didn't clean up, hanging out with awesome other moms who are just like you in their ADHD journey, trying to make things work, fill out the permission slips, do all the things, but not this weekend. This weekend you get to relax. I will take care of everything, and you get to focus on you. Head over to my website, patriciasung.com/retreat, and grab your ticket. This is a small group, and we already have 5 moms from last year coming. So I don't have a ton of spots left. Do not wait. Do not procrastinate. When you hear this and you say this is for me, go grab your ticket. You can use a payment plan. I don't charge extra for that. Go sign up, get your ticket, and take a weekend to take care of you while I do all the work. So head over to patriciasung.com/retreat and get your ticket for the 3rd annual ADHD Moms Amazing Getaway Weekend and relax. patriciasung.com/retreat.
We've covered the grounds on a little bit of background. What is ADHD? It sounds like you really like this definition of it's this biochemical, neurological thing going on inside your body. It's not a character deficiency. You're not bad or lazy or crazy or have poor willpower, though it might show up or feel like those sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's really in your cells. And then we've talked about some common symptoms and then some maybe like still common but not talked about symptoms.
Right.
Honestly, is probably a better way. It's not that they're not common symptoms, but
Yes.
unnoticed. Let's talk about the 2 things that I really loved and wanted to just get some dig in time on this episode is just talking about the 2 most common changes that my clients and listeners are trying to make when they're like, they got bloating and they got constipation and they get headaches and they're trying to fix their gut health so that their hormones get balanced and they just feel good when they eat. So the 2 most common things they're trying to do is change their diet. And honestly, within that, a lot of it's remembering to eat. Let's just be real. Like I'd say that
Yep.
is the most common thing. So I'm even wondering, could we narrow it down to talk about remembering to eat? And the second thing, which I'm going to tell you both just so we can like let you go. The second thing would just be how to remember or set yourself up for winning with taking medications, supplements, things that you're like, I'm going to be taking this daily in some way, shape, or form. When like a shot once a week or once a month is not an option, because I know that's another workaround.
Yeah.
But I'm going to let you break that up and talk about
Okay.
both.
So I think when it comes to having ADHD, one of the questions I love asking, excuse me, one of the questions I love asking is, how can we make this easier? Your brain can do a whole lot of cool stuff. it's not the best at holding information. So you can use lots of other things to hold information and then let your brain do the cool stuff. So I try to do my best to, anytime I have to hold onto information, it is not in my brain. Where can I put that information so that I can find it later? But it's not in my brain because my brain is not going to remember. And who knows when that's going to reappear? Maybe never, maybe 17 times in the next 40 minutes. I don't know. So when we're like, how do we make this easier? When it comes to like taking a medicine. So I actually have just I think I can say I'm healed. I'm healed from mold toxicity for the last 4 years. And so I had done a ton of supplements, a ton of treatments in this process. And so I am an expert at taking many medicines. Um, and the first thing is one, read the instructions. If you don't like reading instructions, how do we make this easier? Do you have someone in your life who could read these instructions and tell you the important things? Like, do you need to eat it with food? Do you not need to eat it with food? Are you not allowed to eat it with food? What time of day do you need to do that? And then I write in Sharpie on the bottle, AM or eat with dinner. And so it's written on the bottle. And I don't have to go then figure out what was supposed to happen. It's already in the bottle. This is when I'm supposed to take it. Then number two is, oh, wait, that may be number three. See, here's where the ADHD comes in. I'm like, did I say multiple things? I don't know. Next, let's skip numbers. Next would be using a system like a pill box is really helpful. Now, keep in mind if you have like young kids around or like medicine that other people shouldn't be taking, you may have to modify. But like a pill box then tells you when you're supposed to take the things, and you can look at it and be like, is Wednesday empty? Great, I took it. Wednesday, still here. Oh, need to do it. So that's a hard part with, when you have ADHD, you're taking this medicine so that you remember to do things. And then did you remember to take the medicine that helps you do the things? I don't know. So I don't ever rely on my brain to remember whether or not I took the medicine. I don't know. That's what the pill box is for. And if you have to take medicines multiple times a day, I have them arranged by day. So I have a pill box for breakfast, a pill box for when I first get up, a pill box for lunch, a pill box for dinner, a pill box for going to bed. Like whenever you need to take the medicines, again, written on there. I use they're called whiteboard crayons because you can wipe them off and rewrite. But they stick. It's not like Expo. If you touch it, it disappears. So I use whiteboard crayon. I write it on the pill box, and this is my breakfast box. And then it goes where I eat breakfast. So it's on the counter, like where the plates and the cups are. Is this the most aesthetically pleasing kitchen design item I could add? No, but I have decided that remembering to take them then I'm all trying to, my mouth is moving faster than my brain has inputted the information. Let me slow down. When I get excited, sometimes that happens. Okay. When you are deciding like what's more important to me, that my kitchen looks beautiful or that I take my medicine, I say it is more important that I take my medicine. So I'm leaving that out where I'm going to see it. Granted, make sure it's not within reach of like tiny people who shouldn't be, eating medicine. So you will have to adapt based on your family. But that is going to be where I need to take it. And then I have a set time. And like, if you're super organized, maybe it's every Sunday. Maybe it's just whenever you run out, that's when you get it done. I don't know. You have to choose for you. And I think that's part of like the important part here is like, I'm going to give you 16 ideas. I don't expect you to employ all 16 of them. Some of them you're going to think are trash. Some of them you're going to be like, that's brilliant. Take what you need and leave the rest. So for me, I put the box out on the counter. I know that here I'm eating breakfast. I'm going to eat it. Well, what happens if I forget to eat? I have an alarm that says, Patricia, go take your medicine on my phone. So where are all these ways that you can put the keeping of this information elsewhere so that it's not on me to remember to take the medicine? All I have to do is wander by the kitchen. Oh, look, here it is. Let me take it. And I was able to fill the pill box really quickly because I wrote on the bottle with the Sharpie, this is breakfast medicine, take 3 times a week or every day or whatever that is. And then I actually write it on the cap. And then if I have a refill, that means that I can just take the cap and put it on the next bottle. I'm not having to transfer all that information again. So there are ways to make this easier on you. Can you ask yourself like what's going to make this easier?
I love
any questions before I go to food, because that's
no, and that's great. I mean, I'm encouraged, and I'm encouraged because number one, I'm encouraged because some of what you listed is what I'm telling my clients. And I'm just like, man, is there anything that I'm missing that is just like not reaching my like ADHD friends? Definitely if we've talked about, I personally, when I've gone through protocols, I write on the top on the lid. And if it's black lid, I put like a little whatever piece of tape and just Sharpie onto that. I just put in bold letters the simplified version. Yeah, like
Yeah.
AM, 2 pills,
Right.
3 months or whatever. I might even write the start date on it or something to know when I started it. And
Mm-hmm.
but the whole pillbox system, I've used that in a variety of ways, and it's great to rehear that, you that works. For me, I tend to keep them in the big pill jars, and I just keep them on my kitchen counter. And then if I have like a dose I need to take at lunch when I'm at work, which for a while I was working in an office, I had literal pills in my office. So I didn't have to, it doesn't work if
Yeah.
you tell yourself, I'll remember to take the bottle in my
No, you
purse.
don't.
No, you
No, you
won't.
don't. Mm,
No, you
you
won't.
don't.
Have it
Yeah.
at the office. What I didn't hear, what I've never heard anyone say before, I'm like actually dying. I loved this. You said, have someone else read the bottle instructions to you. Oh my goodness. I'm actually like really want to try this now with different clients because I've never considered. I do totally know that when I look at instructions, like if I have to build something and read instructions, I have my husband read it. I actually know that it's too much
Mm-hmm.
data, and I will skim it and then miss a step and have halfway built it and have to unbuild it because I forgot to put the screw in at whatever point. But
Yep.
that's really interesting that it's possible that with like again, I kind of want to claim I have ADHD, but like I get really interested in stuff, and it's actually easy for me to read instruction bottles. But I've never considered that if you, depending on kind of what's going on in your brain, maybe you don't feel really motivated to read it. It's gonna be really hard, and just having someone else do it is like mind blown. Um, I love everything that you shared there. So thank you. I don't have any other questions. And I maybe just for our listeners, if you're listening to this, write down, like pause this, write down some of what, if there was something that stood out to you that Patricia just shared, write it down in a little notes area, because remember, we're not going to remember it. Text you. I sometimes text to myself
Mm-hmm.
an idea if I just like can't pick any other way to do it, or email it to myself. But do that, and then you can go implement later. But I love that. Thank you so much, Patricia. Let's talk about food now.
Okay. So the same kind of like questions pattern is going to be here too. Like, where are you getting stuck? What's hard? And how do we make it easier? So, like, for example, if you're like, I really struggle with reading, maybe you have dyslexia. Cool. Okay. You're asking for help for somebody else. In the same way, when we look at food, it's like, hey, where's the struggle bus? Where are you getting stuck that this isn't happening? For example, for me, I work from home, and I know that I only have between like when my kids are at school, that's the only time I have from work. So I'm like busting through. I don't want to stop and eat, and I won't. And that's part of, for one, I mean, I take medicine for my ADHD, and so I will be less hungry during the day, but I know that's not good for me to not eat at all because I'm also a very hangry person. I know this about myself. So I have to eat something. So how do I make this easy for myself? First of all, literally right here, if I realized I didn't eat, I have these like cinnamon almond butter bar things right here. Like if all of a sudden I realize, oh, it's like 1:30 and I didn't eat yet, I will just grab this and eat as like, this is like my plan, not plan B, but maybe like plan X. If none of the other things worked, at least there's a short-term solution here, and they're right here to grab and go.
And can I add to that? Not to
Of
break your
course.
train of thought too much, but I find that sometimes when I'm talking to my clients, they don't want to do that because they feel like it's so much lesser. And to me, it's like, no, there's don't have any guilt about the fact that you're relying on that. Like take the guilt out. There is no like you fed yourself. You
Yes.
like, and you prepared for it because you even like had picked. I mean, maybe listening to this right now, you can think, what's a go-to thing for me? I've just made it nuts. I literally carry a
Mhm.
bag of dried nuts in my
There
purse.
might be one over here, actually.
Right, because just nuts for my diet and how I feel when I eat them. Sure, sometimes I get bored of eating them because like I'm like, sometimes I try to switch up my snack, but if you just have one option, you save a
Yes.
lot of misery for yourself and potentially other people from being
Yeah.
hangry. Um, And so I love that. So that was the only thing I wanted to add is just like no shame and guilt. We're removing that.
No.
You fed yourself. This is great.
Yeah, and it's like when I look at a problem, I look like here's my ideal. Unicorns and rainbows, what would I do for myself? Then it's like, okay, what's realistic? What could actually happen? And then maybe even like another layer of like, well, this isn't ideal, but it'll get by. And then there's like the bare minimum. Especially when you are a parent, having a bare minimum option as like I've already determined that this is the bare minimum is super helpful because you don't know what's going to pop up. You don't know when all of a sudden somebody's going to get a stomach bug, you're cleaning up vomit, you were up at 2 a.m., like all that stuff. What's the bare minimum? The bare minimum is I have to eat something. Is it this granola bar? Fine. Is that my ideal? No, I don't want to have a granola bar for lunch, but it's better than nothing. That's the bare minimum. Nothing is not an option for me. I cannot not eat. Like, Lord help the rest of my family if I didn't eat. That's not an option for me. Bare minimum is, did I eat this, some kind of bar thing?
I had
A level. No, go ahead.
I had a guest come on to into my program actually as a guest expert. It's just one of our free additional things we do in my program. And they talked on this very similar thing. And she had like this thing where you just have a wheel of 10, 1 to 10, and you can literally fill out whatever your ideal is, which is 10, which is actually, you have to be realistic. 10 is not going to happen very often. And that's not bad. It's just realistic. 10 is not your norm. 6 to 7 is probably going to be where your normal more is. And then as you go lower on the scale, you're going to have the things that are your bare minimum. And maybe it's sleep, or maybe it's exercise, like, or maybe it's relaxation. In your ideal world, you do 20 minutes of meditation every day, and that's your 10. But on a bare minimum day, you take a hot shower, and that's like your 1. Like, and so we can do that. You're really describing the same process, but with food.
Yeah. And you can literally apply that to any point of your life, but especially when you are someone who's juggling a lot of needs at the moment. Yes, we wish we could be at level 10 and everything's wonderful, but like that happens once a year. So how do we take care of ourselves? And like, hold on, pause, reverse back then. When you talk about self-care is the like necessities that have to happen for somebody's welfare. I'm trying to remember. I'm like, ooh, definition. I think it's like the bare necessities of like welfare, health, security. Like it's like very basic, like life requirements. It's the necessities to make them happen. Like the self-care is like being this like luxurious like thing you could do just, when you have time. That's not, no. Self-care is the bare minimum for you to function as a person. And like take care of other people means you need more than the bare minimum. So like if our bare minimum, all we got today is granola bars, fine. We just made the bare minimum today, and that's okay. But taking care of yourself is not an optional activity, because then, we can kick that can down the road a little bit, but at some point it all comes back to kick us in the butt. So anyways, reversing back to my original
food. The first tip you had was like, just have your like bare minimum ready, snacks or your granola bar or your nuts.
Like when I think about working from home, I know that I'm not going to stop and make like a 20-minute, I'm not doing like 20 minutes of cooking to make my lunch. It needs to be ready to go. So what are my options for it to be ready to go? I can have leftovers from the dinner, the night before. I can order DoorDash. I can, like even I think about like even harder than that is like if I have to get something out of the freezer and preheat the oven and then wait 20 minutes, like I'm just not eating. So if I know that about myself, and like part of that is the acceptance that I have of being like, look, I'm not going to do that. I know you're going to be like, Patricia, it'd be really easy to get that thing out of the freezer and pop it in. No, it's not easy. I won't do it. So I'm not going to try to set myself up for failure. It's not happening.
Yeah.
So like one of the things that I do for myself is on the weeks where I know I'm not going to be doing a lot of cooking and I'm not going to have leftovers is I order, like there's a local company here called, I think they're only in Houston. It's called Nosh. They deliver pre-made meals in a box. It's like pretty healthy stuff. And I know that having my Nosh delivery once a week to have meals for lunch is a better solution than, oh crap, I didn't eat. Now I'm yelling at everybody at the end of the day. So like, do I wish that I was spending money on pre-made food. Actually, they're very affordable. If you're in Houston, you should try them. They're good. But like, if I'm looking at my value system and prioritizing, me not eating is a terrible option. I'm not going to go cook something for 20 minutes. I'm not going to, even like a salad, when you're like, wait, I got to like cut stuff and then put it together. When I'm on working days, I don't want to do that. And some people are going to be like, well, you're so lazy. No, I'm not lazy. I'm honest. I'm not going to do that. So more important is that I find the way to make it work for me. So I would rather order the pre-made things and eat them. And if that's not in the budget, okay, how can you pre-make the things? Like when you make dinner, can you make a double batch, box it up, and that you can literally just take the container out of the fridge and stick it in the microwave? Like, do you want to make a bunch of sandwiches on Monday and you can eat them all week? How do we make this easy? And the whole idea of batching, like basically I'm just having somebody else batch my food for me. Someone else is cooking it and putting it into servings. Like if there's a way that you can batch these things, like batching, putting the medicine in the pill box is batching. I made all those executive decisions at one time, and now I don't have to think about them the rest of the week. How can we do that for you so that it feels easy? If this is important enough that you know you need to eat. Ooh, I'm like, it is storming here. I don't know if you can hear the thunder. I'm like, ooh, I hope my internet doesn't go out. Okay. If it is important enough for you to eat, then is this solution worth it so that you can be able to make this goal? And yes, you have to consider your budget and your time and all the other things. But doing the thing in the easiest way possible within the parameters that you have is what we want to do, because bottom line, like I need to eat food. Otherwise, I am a mess at bedtime. So that it's worth it for me to make that decision earlier in the day and say that I am worth spending $7 on this nosh meal so that I'm not yelling at my family come 8 p.m. So when you're looking at it for you, what are the ways that you can do this in an easier way? And yes, somebody's going to have an opinion about it. Somebody's going to say you shouldn't do that. You know what? You don't live here. Like you're not me. I don't have, and honestly, like once you hit 40, a lot of it's like, I don't really care what you think. I want to do what's best for me and my family.
Yes, I can't wait to hit 40.
And I am very happy to have made it here. I'm still alive. I almost died. I'm glad to be here. Like I will keep my wrinkles here to prove that I'm still here.
Oh my gosh.
It's about how do you make it easier for you? How can you batch it? How can you delegate it? Is there somebody else in your family who loves cooking? Can they be in charge of that? Like, can you have it pre-made, set out so that all you have to do is grab and go? Can you have like, I know a lot of people with ADHD do like they call them like adult Lunchables. Like basically you have some lunch meats or like some kind of like chopped up protein. You got some vegetables that are already pre-cut. Like if you can afford it, go buy the chopped veggies that are already cut. Like if that's what's going to take for you to eat veggies is to pay the extra dollar to have for them to cut the carrot instead of you. Is that worth it to you? Like, is the dollar worth it for you to eat vegetables? If you have the dollar to spend the dollar or $2. Like, but it comes down to what works for you, what matters to you. Is that where you're going to devote your resources? Hey, I'm going to skip Netflix so I can buy pre-cut veggies. Then do it. But that's up to you and your value system. But make it easier. Stop making it so hard. It's okay. I gave you the permission slip. Make it easy.
I love it. So, I mean, and again, I encourage you guys pause, maybe just like write out one, just pull out a note and write out 1 through 10 on a line and just start like filling in 6 or 7. What's like your most average way you can complete a meal in a day? 10, what's your like most idyllic situation that might happen sometimes, but maybe not all the time? And like 1, what's your plan? And maybe we need more of the, maybe it's like the ones that are like the one where we're not filling it out very well because, well, 1 shouldn't exist. I should always hover around a 6 or 7. And then we kind of implode because we don't have that one plan. But that might be something really actionable someone listening to this right now could take. But additionally, and we're closing out on our time here, and Patricia, if anybody's been listening to you and they're just like, this is amazing, we already mentioned it, go and get Patricia's ADHD Mama Toolkit. It's going to have a lot of stuff like this or similar to it inside of it. But Patricia, can you also tell us you have a membership group, which I imagine's got to be like this, but like everyday access all the time amazingness. Can you tell us more about your membership group?
Yeah. So we have a community called Successful Mama Meetups, and we meet on Wednesdays. So you can come, there's 2 different time slots. So you can come to both or one, whatever works for you. And we get together and we spend half the time getting things done. So like actionable time to prepare like your week ahead, look about like at your calendar, what's going on. And so that you feel really good about how you're going into the week. Do you have the things ready that you need? Do you have the permission slip signed that you need to have, and then the second half we hang out and talk. So it's different every week. So some weeks I share like this and I'm like, we have a monthly theme. So I don't know when this episode will air. I don't know if you know either. I'm like, I could tell you if I remember the theme, I could be wrong, but it's everything from like, sometimes we're like this month we're talking about relationships and how do you support your relationship when you have ADHD in the mix. We talked about parenting last month. We're going to be talking about let's see, we like upcoming themes we have are like planning your week, planning your month. The moms asked for like easy entertaining, like how do you host people and it not be stressful? Like we're gonna do that one month, like some kind of theme that we can rally around. So like I'll do a talk like this on whatever we're talking about. Sometimes we just divide up and like talk about cat memes and silly dog videos and like what's the whatever like favorite
Brings joy to your
reality
heart.
show. Like the whole point is to have community that gets you, and the people who aren't going to roll their eyes when you're like, I just can't make lunch. Like it's too much for me at that point. They're not going to be like, oh, well, if you just made sandwiches ahead of time, then you totally like, there's none of that attitude. It's moms who get it and are like, we are like in very similar shoes of like, yeah, lunch is hard. And can someone just be in charge of meals from now on? Because I don't want to grow up all the time. Like those are the kind of moms that are in this group. So we get stuff done, we build community, we learn about our ADHD, and they're really awesome. And if y'all I'd love to have you. You are welcome to join, and it's risk-free. If you come the first time and you're like, oh, this is not for me, I really don't think that'll happen. But you could change your mind the first week and I will give you your money back. Cause I don't want anyone here who's like, oh, I don't know. Like this is a beautiful community of moms who are supporting each other. And if that sounds like your people, come on. And I don't always talk this fast. I was like, I'm on a roll today. I'm usually a little slower talker, but
I love it. I love it. It's just the energy. Hopefully you still have energy after this.
Well, today's my teaching day. And so I was like already on a roll of like rocking and rolling. And so I'm hyped up. I love what I do and I love sharing. So, I say also one of my like telltale signs of people with ADHD is if you listen to their podcast and if you put it on like 1.5 and you're like, whoa, this person's way too fast, you gotta slow this down, they might have ADHD. We tend to be fast talkers. So, and if you listen to
keep up with our brain.
Yeah, if you listen to everything on like 1.5, 1.7, 2x, then you might be one of my people too. Because we're always like, come on, people, pick it up. So
yeah, that's me. You talk too slow. Give me the information.
Move along.
Again, Patricia, thank you so much just for sharing what you've been doing, what God has been putting into your life, all how you got here, and honestly, hopefully encouraging some moms and women today who are just trying to process what it looks like to be a woman with maybe or actually or ADHD. So Patricia, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
For more resources, classes, and community, head over to my website, motherhoodinadhd.com.